Well, the doorbell just rang, and hopefully we got a package from MAXIMUS-3. Let's see what it is. What do we get? What is it? Oh boy, we got our winch. I don't think that one's for you, Gil. Trying to open it? What do you think? Yep, it's not for you. Okay, come on in. All right, folks, we'll be right back and get this thing inside.
3 days later.
And it appears that we got the winch plate from Maximus. What is it? Oh boy. All right, well, I guess we can start this install. Have you folks been looking for the right winch plate and the right winch for your JT Gladiator or your JL Rubicon that came with the factory metal bumper group? If so, stick around because we're going to be installing a MAXIMUS-3 winch plate along with a Warn VR EVO 10,000-pound synthetic winch. We did an install on the MAXIMUS-3 Stinger bar last month. If you haven't watched that video, I'll try to throw a link or in the description. Go back and watch that. A couple tips and tricks that will help you along the way as you do this install. Stick around. Well, she has to go run some errands, so she didn't want to affect the video, so I thought I'd tape her anyways. Let's see if I can get this installed by the time she gets back. Well, okay, let's get right down into the fling of it here. If you have the factory steel bumper group on your JT Gladiator or your JL Rubicon, you're going to have this bumper, obviously without the Maximus Stinger bar, but you're going to have the winch plate cover, which I had already removed. You have 5 T45 screws that you'll have to remove. You'll also have to remove this little plastic piece here. There are 2 push pins, but in order to get them off, get a screwdriver underneath there. You only need to get it out that far and it pulls off and then it's ready to be removed. Okay, so after you remove the winch plate cover and the factory plastic trim piece with those 2 push pins, you're going to need to remove the factory steel skid plate. There are 7 13mm bolts that need to be removed. I already removed the 5 of them, and I just have 2 more that need to come off. 1 there and 1 right there. Okay, I'm going to do that now. I'll be right back. All right. Okay, so after the skid plate is removed, the next thing you're going to need to do is remove the total of 8 18mm bolts. Grab yourself an 18mm socket. There are 2 on the outside and 2 on the inside for a total of 8. Before you remove the bumper, you're going to have to disconnect your factory fog light harness here. This has got a detent. It slides in there just like that. You push down on the little tab here and it pulls right off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove the rest of these bolts and get this bumper off. So grab yourself a 18mm deep well socket. I've got a 1/2 inch drive, and go ahead and remove the 2 inner bolts on each side. Okay, one little tip that I just realized, I was using the 18mm deep well socket, but I have a ratcheting 18mm wrench, and I found that to be just a little bit easier. Okay, so next step, after you remove all 8 of the bolts, you're going to be left with the factory reinforcement brackets, and it's actually about to fall off right now. Let me see if I can grab that. Just go ahead and remove those on each side. You're not going to be reusing them. Moment of truth. This is coming off. Or not. There we go. And just like that. All right. I guess it wants to lay completely flat. All right, be right back. Okay, one thing to mention here is that since I was installing the Maximus stinger bar, this bolt here is a 16 millimeter. I had already removed that, so it wanted to come right off when I was removing the bumper because that reinforcement bracket and that bolt was already removed. So mine was about to fall off, so I just went ahead and took that off. But you would have to remove, when you remove these two 18 millimeter bolts, when you pull the bumper off, you're going to be left with this, and it's actually going to be a 16 millimeter bolt that you're going to have to remove. And then you have the factory reinforcement brackets. You're not going to be using those. You're just going to toss those to the side. Again, just thought I'd mention that just to help you out. Okay, per the Maximus instructions, next it says to go ahead and loosen or remove these two bolts. I believe they're a 16 millimeter. There's going to be a bolt that's going to hold the winch plate in, and you're going to feed in a serrated nut on the inside of that little opening there. I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down and start working on that. Okay, so since I'm doing this by myself, it's a little hard to hold the camera and obviously get the winch plate installed. But this is how the winch plate goes into place. There's two little detents that kind of hold it in place, which negates the reason to use the bolts that go here that are temporary bolts that didn't come with my instructions or the hardware because they said it's not needed. Fish that in there and just kind of get the bolt started here. There's a bolt, a washer, and a serrated nut. All right, that's about as tight as I can get that by hand, and I'll switch to the other side. Okay, couple little tips and tricks here. I did have to remove the skid plate reinforcement brackets there. Those are 16 millimeter bolts. I took those off. I was able to fish a 18 millimeter 3/8 inch drive socket up there, and then use my 19 millimeter wrench on that bolt. I think earlier I said it was opposite. So just to clarify, the bolt head is going to be a 19 millimeter and the nut is going to be an 18 millimeter. And I've already got this lined up here. I used a thick screwdriver, got it to where when we put the bumper back on, it will slide right on. We have the winch plate is on and the back bracket bolts are tightened down. I got them nice and tight. I put the skid plate bolts back in, 16 millimeter socket. So now I'm ready to pull out the Warn VR EVO winch and get this thing set up here. Okay, so after you get the Maximus winch plate installed, it's ready to prepare the winch. I'd like to add, I got the Maximus winch plate as well as the Warn VR EVO synthetic winch from Maximus as a package deal. And then after they were shipping that, I called them up and I ordered the black texturized tow hook. They also make it in a red high gloss powder coat. It's real slick. I already have a lot of red accents on the Sarge green Jeep. I wanted something a little bit more subdued. I'd also like to mention you could use whatever fair lead you want to with that tow hook that's there. I already have a factor 55 fair lead from previous JKU as well as a flat link. I'm not sure which way I'm gonna go. But either way, that's real slick. I'm going to go ahead and install it anyways. At least it's there and I can use and choose whatever I want. So I'm going to get this unboxed and get this thing on the Jeep. Okay, folks, so this is what we kind of have left over after I unbox the Warn winch. This is the Warn VR EVO synthetic 10,000 pound winch. It comes with the black Warn winch fair lead. I have my own stuff here, as I was saying earlier. I've got the factor 55. I think I'm going to use that with the red flat link there. Comes with your wires in the kit with the control. Also comes with a hook. I don't think I'm going to use that, but I am going to install this really cool tow hook from Maximus. That's really neat. And what's neat about what they provide at Maximus is that if you still want to have the T45 bolts that you took off from the factory cover, the winch plate cover, you can put your T45 back in, and then these are serrated and you just torque them down and you're not going to have an empty hole in your bumper. And kind of lastly, these are the they're spacers that will go on the bumper, and then the bumper will go back on just to space it out just a little bit more. Okay, got everything unboxed. Looks like all the hardware's there. I checked everything, so let's get this thing bolted up. So I got a late start on this install, and I'm kind of losing daylight, and it is about dinner time. She's ready to go to dinner, so I think I'm going to finish up with this install first thing in the morning. But got the winch installed, got it torqued and bolted down, and I got the wires ran through the engine bay, away from anything hot, away from the radiator. I even zip tied the wires together there before I ran it up and through the engine bay. That is how it's ran for now. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave it like that, but it's good enough for tonight. And then I will get the fair lead on the bumper, get the bumper back on, and finish up, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, good morning. It's a stormy morning here in Florida, and it's raining cats and dogs, but we're going to get this bumper installed today. I got some coffee in me. I'm ready to go. As you can see here, I have the little pieces here. Those are the spacers that go on the bumper to space it out just a little bit. And next up is the plastic piece that covers where the MAXIMUS-3 hook anchor as well as the Factor 55 fair lead is going to be mounted at the front of the metal bumper. Pretty easy. This thing just pops in and out. We'll go ahead and do that now. And Bob's your uncle. Next up is the MAXIMUS-3 hook anchor. This thing is black texturized powder coat. Very nice, very sturdy. The winch line wraps around and then hooks to one side. And the bolts that come with it are 4 of them. They are 5mm Allen head with a 13mm socket on the other end. These look like stainless steel, and they're serrated on the other end. There's 4 of those. We're going to go ahead and get that bolted up right now. And I'll tell you what, this is really nice. I mean, it matches the factory steel bumper perfectly. I mean, this is just solid. Wow, that blends in really, really nice. I really like that. And the bumper is on. The hook plate is on, the fair lead is on, and I called my wife out here just to make sure that the bumper was going on straight and squared up correctly. And then I already kind of started some of the bolts on the back just to make sure that it stays on there before I snug it up. Total of 8 bolts, and they're 18mm socket. I'll probably use an impact on the outer 4 just to snug everything down correctly. And then I have to put the decorative ends on, and I'll just point out something here. They give you a bolt, Maximus does, to put the decorative ends in, and it's self-tapping. I did that last night before I put the bumper on today, just so it make my life a little easier. There's a little bit of my wire management. I zip tied everything. I just have to wire it to the battery, and I think we're pretty much good to go. Don't forget to hook up your fog lights, and then I also have wires that are hanging somewhere there for my Baja lights, and then I'll hook those up, and then we'll be done. Otherwise, man, that thing looks good. The Baja Designs fog lights are plugged back in, a little wire management, a few zip ties. I wired up the Warn winch to the battery. I ended up feeding the wires just underneath the air box. I didn't like how I wired it last night. I removed the 10mm bolt, and I think that looks much cleaner. I just have the 7 13mm bolts to put on for the skid plate, and we'll be ready to roll. Okay, so it's all done. I got the decorative ends on there that cleans up the backside of the bumper. That is really cool that MAXIMUS-3 came up with that idea. Kind of fills in the gap there. I really like the whole setup here. I got the skid plate back on. We're ready to rock and roll. And folks, if you really enjoyed the video today, and I hope you did, like, subscribe. We got plenty more videos coming along. and drop me a comment. We're heading out here in the next 5 days to Jeep Invasion up in Tennessee. So maybe we'll see some of you folks out there. Until then, thanks for watching.